Hi there, my name is Vinay Ruhal, and this is my presentation for NBA sponsorship and contacts with State Farm Insurance Company. And this is for integrated marketing communication. So, before we start, let's have a look about what is NBA and why it's so famous. So, NBA is basically National Basketball Association, which came into existence in 1949 when it merged with the National Basketball League and Basketball Association of America, which was founded in 1946. The tournament roughly generates US dollar 8 billion every single season, so that's a huge amount of money that they generate. That's quite popular. New York Knicks is the highest paid franchisee with value equivalent to US dollar 4.6 billion. So that's a bit about what NBA is. Now let's talk about the sponsorships that they have. So I'm not going to talk about the entire list of sponsorships or the sponsors. I'm just going to talk about some really good brands and some brands that have a good impact in the entire tournament. So the top ones are Nike, Pepsi, Google, and State Farm Insurance, which sponsor the entire event altogether. And some other noticeable contributions are from AT&T, Tessot, HP, and American Express. The core for such sponsors list is actually the popularity of the game itself and the reach that the game has. So company wants to utilize that exposure that the game gives, and they want to create the brand awareness or the brand value or market their brands through that platform. Then State Farm is the most active sponsor in the league, and this can be figured out by this thing that they have spent 193 million US dollar just to get the name right of Phillips Stadium for 20 years. So that's a big amount of money that I'm talking about. Now let's talk a bit about State Farm here. What is State Farm? What business they do? So State Farm is actually an insurance company. So it was actually a group of insurance company before, but then it comes to as a sole owner and was founded in 1922 by Joe Jacob. He was a retired farmer and also worked as an insurance agent, from where he got the motivation to establish his own insurance company for farmers, which he extended further in to other financial services which they provide now, insurance and banking and every sort of thing. The company holds 36th position in 500 Fortune companies in 2018's list, and also has 58,000 employees. And also, it is the 101st biggest bank in terms of the asset it holds. That's roughly 16.7 billion US dollars. Now, let's talk about what are the benefits of NBA sponsorship to State Farm. So, there are a couple of benefits, but I'm going to talk about the main ones. So, the top ones is that the exposure that you get from this sort of sponsorship and the reach that you have with this sort of sponsorship. So NBA is actually really famous game. So because they have so much engagement from the crowd, that gives a very good opportunity for all the sponsors to exploit that platform and to use that platform to convey their message. Also, the product and service promotion is very possible for State Farm, and they have done it very well by a social media campaign in 2015 where they helped through social hub. They made a social hub on the internet, and they helped all the star weekends attendees through social media and directed them towards public transit and other attractions. So they basically try to convey their message that we are here to help, and that's the motto of the company, State Farm. So also, it gives State Farm a separate brand identity association with some other brands that have a good reputation as you have always gives you an edge over your competitor because you are very well identifiable with that sort of event or sports or anything like this. So in case MotoGP has an association with Coca-Cola or any other brand, so that gives them a good name there. Now let's talk about what could be the possible drawbacks of NBA sponsorship to State Farm. So they were not too many, but there were two noticeable ones. So one was a negative brand image impact. So when two companies merges together, it's really, really hard for these two companies to never mess up. So always there is a point of time when one company would do something that would create a negative impact on the brand image. And as soon as the brand image is damaged, the other company also faces consequences because of that. One of the case was when Terrell Morey supported the Hong Kong freedom movement of China, and that created a real tension between the Chinese company, Chinese government, and the NBA altogether because NBA was supporting the guy. So that creates a sort of brand image problem there, so it should be taken care of. Then also huge financial commitments are there, because in 2018 903 million US dollar was spent by State Pharma, and 1.21 billion US dollar was spent in 2019, so that's a good jump there in expenditure. And also in the same year, the company reported a decline in direct premium during the same time. So that's a problem there. That means their expenses were going up and their income was going down. So that's a big problem right there. That should be taken care very well. Now let's talk about some of the other benefits of State Pharma to NBA. Now here the situation is flipped. Now we're going to talk about the benefits that State Pharma has to NBA. The first one is the funding. So any sports event is recognized or is famous because of the massive funding that it has. We obviously don't see that, but we notice that because all the stadium needs cleanliness. You got staff, you need to sell tickets, you need to organize advertisement campaigns, you need to fund the sportsmen, you need to pay them for their accommodation, food expenses, salaries, everything. So that needs a hell lot of budget there, and State Pharma actually gave that budget to NBA, and not just that budget but also increases that budget every single year, so that creates a real different impact in the game itself. Also catching the attention. So big brands usually come up with big following itself, and also State Pharma is not a small brand; it's a big brand. So State Pharma, State Farm, and NBA, when they came together, their followers came together, and that created a big crowd in itself, which was following the entire game. So other people easily attached to that crowd, and that became a massive crowd and became the massive popular game that it is now, right? So it enhances the brand image in one way. Also the NBA merchandise. So the only reason why NBA merchandise exists is because of the huge funding that the company is providing to the game, and this is one of the reasons why NBA is not just a sports, it's actually a brand in itself. They have their own cloth line, shoe line, dressing, fashion, everything in it. So that's a good thing when you invest a lot of money in it and they are not just fixed in one thing, they're deviating it to other things as well. Let's talk about the drawbacks of State Farm sponsorship to NBA. So first is increased cost. As you know, when a lot of sponsorship is there, there is a lot of money involved in it. So everything related to that would be expensive, because ultimately who pays the price? The customer pays the price. So that means ticket prices are high, food prices are high, and every sort of thing that is related to the event as high, and it is really unjustifiable at times. That is the prices level, right? So that cost actually transfers to the customer, and this is the problem. Also, it creates a distraction is because sports person need to focus on the game rather than the perks that they would get after winning. But because there is so much financial involvement in it, and because of that financial involvement, they actually get distracted from the real game and they start focusing on the perks rather than performing good in the game. So this results in the poor performance, which obviously we have seen in a lot of games where high end teams have actually performed very low. Third is advertisement. NBA creates a link of excitement attentiveness with its audience, which is often broken by advertisement disruption. So it's a very real type phenomena that we're talking about, because advertisement actually disrupts the engagement that audience has with the game. So this actually pulls the audience away from the event, but also results in unethical sports practices due to high stake of advertisers. So the unethical activities are match fixing, other unethical sports activities, that can be, any tampering with the ball or anything like that. So there are so many other unethical activities which are promoted because of this. Now let's talk about branding for a while here, which includes promoting a term, symbol, and product name, but never limits to this only, because the real reason why they want to promote a term, symbol, or product name is not because of the product, symbol, or term, but because of the message they want to convey behind it. So the message has the importance than anything else, and this is actually called the perceived value that the customer feels with the particular brand, also with the state of emotion that the brand makes it feel. Why a brand is chosen over the other is also a question that is answered through branding. Now, expectation standards are fixed by branding, which enhances brand value. Also, when new businesses want to go on and brand themselves, or they want to extend to other product lines, they can use branding very well. So this is actually where they use branding. Now let's talk about public relation enhancement in context with State Farm. So the first is State Farm has used branding extensively, as we can see, and examples are social hub that they have established, and as I talked about them, it conveys the message of here to help. Also, they came up with a new advertisement campaign in which they had James Harden and Chris Paul, and Chris Image is obviously like a supporting guy, so he assists the entire team in reaching the goal, and this is the same message that the company wanted to convey to the customers, that they are there to help. And this resulted in a good partnership between Chris and State Farm, and there's a joint motive there that you can see very well, which they want to convey. Then State Farm would be sponsoring Benjamin Lupo, who is also the most recognized Fortnite voice. So Fortnite is actually a game with 45 million active players, so that's a big crowd that I'm talking about. And obviously, no country would like to miss that, because this is something that creates a big impact if they position themselves correctly. And also, the players are sort of mid-aged group players, so that actually creates as a sensation in State Farm, that they want to be engaged in the mid-age group as well, and they want to position themselves according to that customer's requirement. Now, what could be the possible conclusions that we can draw out of it? So the first conclusion would be that obviously NB and State Pharma, they have achieved a lot in success, and that's why they are so big brand, and they have properly utilized each other very well, and we can learn from them in that case. But also, there is another noticeable thing, that this sponsorship is only working because of the game's value. So if the game value loses after a time or after some years, the game is not having that much charm, or not able to attract that many people, it would be a problem right there. So both brands need to understand that they have to respect each other's brand value and act accordingly, because they are not just in this by themselves, there are many other companies along with it. So if there is a negative brand perception about NBA and, let's say, Chinese market, that might create a problem for State Pharma to establish a good brand image in Chinese market, because State Pharma is tagged along with NBA. So that is a problem right there. They need to see that thing. Also, a balance need to be maintained between direct and indirect advertisement, especially during the event, to avoid unwanted distraction. So that's another good point there. So this was all the conclusions and recommendations that I have, and I hope you liked it, and thank you very much for this.